Go. Hey, everybody, Mark Herman, a.k.a. LA Bengals fan on most of the major platforms. I'm joined here, as always, by my partner in crime, Jake Circus of the Jake Circus Podcast. And this is the draft preview edition of Jungle Talk.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
there you go. Here we go. Draft time. One of my favorite times of the year. I think free agency more, just because the last few years we've been active. So before I forget, if you don't subscribe, please subscribe. It's all we ask. Give us the thumbs up on the video. That helps us with the analytics over at YouTube, helps us out on the suggestions. So it's all we ask. Give us the thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell, get the notifications. And Jake, tell them where they can find all your stuff before we jump into this.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Jake Circus. Towards football season, a lot of my Bengal stuff, NFL content is going to be on there. All my bets are for free. Killed it last season, so look out for that. I am Jake Circus Podcast on Spotify, taking a little bit of a break right now. Might do a draft recap, who knows? But yeah, Jake Circus Podcast on Spotify and YouTube as well. That'll get back fully around August when college football and NFL are fully back, and there'll be multiple episodes per week.
Yeah, I tag Jake in all of on my Twitter feed on these, so you can always find Jake. He does a great podcast on gambling. Speaking of gambling, who's the favorite to win MVP right now in the gambling for the NFL?
For football?
Yeah.
Is it Burrow?
Joe Burrow, yeah.
Damn.
So it makes it,
That's some.
it's almost taken away the futures. I really loved it when it was 12-1 to win the division, or actually I had 24-1 the year we won. I put $50 down at 24-1.
There you
That
go.
was when the over under wins was 6.5. It was a lot easier to gamble with the team. Now it's like,
Now I gotta lay some because
now
I remember
now it's
when
a
they
coin
were
flip bet. It's a coin flip bet on whether or not we whether you bet any of this stuff. So I think Jake froze on us here. So it's a coin flip bet whether you bet any of these things. Now it's like over 11. It's like, when
we were 0-2 last year, our odds skyrocket, like they went up a lot, or I guess down. I think we opened the year 18-1 to win the Super Bowl,
right?
Something like that. When we were 0-2, I think I went up to 30 something to 1. That's what I got it at. And I think that's the last time it'll be anywhere remotely close to that, as long as Joe Burrow is the quarterback. I think the days of the Bengals not getting respect from odds makers we are well past those.
No, Joe Burrow changed everything. We are a darling favorite. We cover the lines a lot. I said, it's not that we're not a secret anymore. We're not sneaking up on anybody. We're not getting these mixed up odds. So
one last thing, you actually brought up a good point. I think, I could be wrong, I know he's one of the 3 best, but I think the Bengals are the best team against the spread since 2020 or since 2019, Zach Taylor's first year. I could be wrong, but I know they're up there. They've been up there the last 3 years for sure. But since 2019, when Zach came in his first year, I think the Bengals are the number 1 team against the spread. They were like 14-2 last year against the spread.
Right. Yeah.
They didn't cover the first 2 weeks. I think they covered every single game after that, besides the Cleveland game.
Yeah. No, it's like I said, it's taken away, I'll gamble on other things, but it's taken away a lot of the excitement. So in terms of throwing down that $50 to win a couple thousand, those days are over. They're just over. So let's talk about briefly the Hurts contract. Finally got done. Little more than I would have liked to have seen him get. I don't know. So I think Burrow, and I think that was the first domino to fall. So now we're waiting to see about Herbert and Burrow. So we talked about this on the last show at length. You could go back into the video. Heath, who asked me, why isn't Burrow done yet? I said, you clearly didn't watch our last video. So it's going to be probably late June. Then we talk about Josh Allen, Mahomes both being done in late June. That's probably when Burrow will get done. I'll remind everybody, I think we are going to be the first team that ties Burrow. The way we're going to make him happy is we're going to tie him to the salary cap increases. And so he will constantly be going up, and they'll say you're an X percentage of the salary cap. It'll give the team a chance to plan accordingly, knowing what Joe will be, and it will we won't have give the huge guarantee because this team does not have $250 million to stick in an escrow account. They just don't. So that we're gonna have to appease him another way, and I think that's one way to do it. He could be the first quarterback with that type of contract, so it'll be interesting to see if that happens. But that's my prediction. It's a pure guess, but I know that Katie Blackburn's creative, and we have to come up with alternatives, to make Joe happy.
Yeah, so the full details for Hurts weren't officially announced. We don't have it all. Like the number seems really big, and it is because it's a lot of guaranteed money. 180 guaranteed, second most of all time outside of the horrid Deshaun Watson contract that Cleveland signed. But this is probably what it's more so going to look like. I don't think anyone's ever going to sign a 10-year deal again like Mahomes did. It would be smart for a team to do that because the Chiefs look like geniuses after that, but I don't think it's ever really going to happen again. But the Hurts contract probably will look different than the Burrow contract for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're guaranteeing him $110 million at signing. So they're going to, like you said, stick a shit ton of money in the escrow account. He's going to get a shit ton of cash up front, something the Bengals won't do with Burrow. It's just how it's going to go. So I think that this would probably be a little bit more similar to what Herbert's going to sign. They're all going to sign similar deals, but there's a lot of ways to skin the cat in the NFL with restructures and stuff like that, setting yourself up for the future. You don't know exactly what Burrow's contract is going to look like. I doubt it's going to look kind of like.
Yeah, Jake's having issues. I think that their Bengals are actually going to give him, maybe 100 million up front. I think they give him a big number. So we'll see how that plays out. Yeah, the only part I disagree with you is I think that they will figure out a way to maybe drop 100 million in his lap instantly on signing. That's how they got Orlando Brown. They gave him the largest signing bonus that had ever been given to an offensive lineman. You do the same thing here. I think that they figure out a way to drop a large chunk of money, but not guarantee. They don't. Like I said, the way the collective bargaining set up, they have to put every amount of guarantee sitting in an escrow. They can't do that 240, 250, but maybe they give him 80, 90, 100 million up front at signing and figure out how they're going to structure it. Katie Blackburn's good at this, so in the Blackburns, I trust. That's kind of my thinking of it. But it will get done. Joe's going to get paid. There's no question.
Yeah, I mean, right. The key number is the nine figures for guaranteed. That's probably like they have to do that. Like they're not going to say, "Hey, Burrow, we'll give you $50 million guaranteed, however much upfront." That's not that's not how it's going to work. They know the situation. I just think because the cap numbers did come out, it's like really, really low. I just don't know if Burrow's contract is going to look exactly like that because we haven't really seen the Bengals do that. They didn't do it with Andy. I know the new trend is different. But if you see the Hurts contract and say, "Oh, those cap numbers are really low," you look at the Mahomes contract; those cap numbers are really low. We might be seeing some $40-45 million cap numbers in the next 5 years with Burrow. Just keep that in mind.
All right. Well, something's going to happen, and we'll address it. It's going to be after June 1. So we'll go from there. We did re-sign Sample, so we kept our blocking tight end in the fold. He was out there testing free agency. Obviously, we re-signed we re-signed Pratt, we re-signed Taylor, we re-signed Sharping. Added Cody Ford. One of the things we did with all these signings, if you look, we added Irv Smith, we added Nick Scott, we added Sidney Jones, Cody Ford, obviously Orlando Brown. We made it so the Bengals don't have to address anything at any specific time in the draft. They don't have to do a certain position, which is what you want. You want to go into the draft with taking best player available. That's what you want to do. And I think the Bengals have put themselves in a really good position to do that. So what are your thoughts on that? They could go, depending on how the board falls, they could go tight end, they could go cornerback, they could go running back, anything with the first pick. It depends. And I hate doing mocks when you're drafting back. I didn't mind mocks when we were drafting in the top 10 picks because you could say, "Hey, here's 10 players. We know we're going to get one of them." But when you're drafting 28, it's fluid. You have no idea. We could trade back. If the player if we want, that's isn't there, and a team calls us and says, "Hey, we'll give you our high pick on day 2, and we'll add this, that, and the other," we may fall back a day. We don't know. It's all going to be fluid. So, what are you thinking on that?
I was surprised to see because Duke Tobin did a press conference today. I was surprised to see that people were surprised that he basically said, "Yeah, we're gonna go best player available." I feel like they've been doing that for 3 years. I really do. Now it's going to be a little different this year because they don't have as many instant needs. Now they kind of need to, okay, well, let's think of what our corner room is going to look like in 2 years in case Jadobi leaves. Let's think about what our tackle situation is going to look like if Jonah leaves, which he probably will. The only immediate need I think is running back and tight end, but at that point they're drafting the fourth or fifth pass catcher and a back that they're not going to use as much because of all the weapons they have. So they're, in terms of the immediate needs, that's where the BPA is going to come from. But I think the Osai pick was BPA. I think Chase was BPA when they were picking fifth. I think Dax Hill was their BPA, even though that was probably the right pick at that time because they knew Jesse was out the door. I feel like they've been going best player available, and I've been saying this for the last 3 years.
Right.
Their boards just naturally matched up with where they were selecting. I truly believe that they've been going BPA for 3 years. I mean, the only time I can really remember them reaching was for Drew Sample, and that didn't really work out.
No. And
oh yeah, Jackson Carman.
Yeah. Carman. But Carman's actually,
yeah,
he's showing signs, in terms
no,
of.
he was a reach. He was a reach.
He was a reach. I'm saying they had a plan. They were going to convert him and all this, but he's actually, I'm not as down on him as Drew Sample or obviously, like
right.
a John Ross type pick where it was like, what were you thinking? You just threw away the first rounder. So, but
yeah. One more thing on the Jackson Carman thing. It's not entirely their fault because they fell in love with Chase. They really needed an offensive tackle. And if they took Sewell, that problem would have been fixed. But obviously Chase was the right pick, blah, blah, blah. But they needed to go tackle second round. So they were naturally handcuffed there. They ended up taking the wrong one. Asante Samuel was staring them down at that pick, and they should have done that. But, they had to reach for that.
Right. Just going through the other stuff, let's touch briefly. I don't want to spend a lot of time on Mixon and his issues. I mean, it's not a huge crime or anything, but I know that, I've read multiple times Daner's reported that he's going to need to take a pay cut or they're going to release him, that type of thing. So we'll just see how that all plays out.
That's a summer issue. That's a summer thing.
Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out. I do think we're going to, now let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do is just talk about players we might like to see, falling down the board and stuff. I mean, obviously everybody, Bijan Robinson would be great. I don't see him getting to us. And there's backs in day 2, in day 2 in the second or third round that we can add that are capable running backs. So, a kid from UCLA comes to mind. So I just don't know that. I don't know. Like I said, it's fluid. If Bijan Robinson's there, they jump all over it. But if Bijan Robinson's there, somebody might trade ahead of us, knowing we're going to take him. So, it's like I said, it's a fluid thing. I looked at McShay's mocks, and he had us going cornerback, O lineman, and safety with 1, 2, and 3. If like I said, I thought the cornerback he has us taking in the first round was a reach, but there will be a quality corner for us there. We did interview 5 corners or something at the combine. So who'd you like to see fall?
Yes, I think 4. Forbes, Smith. Yeah, four corners. In terms of running backs, yeah, I would kill for Bijan. I mean, I don't think that they would do that. I think that would transform their offense, but if they don't, they don't. He's probably not even going to be there anyway, so it's not even a conversation we need to have. Jamar Gibbs has been getting a lot of steam on Bengals Twitter. Understandably, he's basically mini Jamal Charles.
Right.
But Charles was a 3rd round pick. I would not take Jamar Gibbs in the first. I'm very against running backs in the first, but Bijan Robinson's very different. Jamar Gibbs is not really. He's just really good, and would fill a need, but not a 1st round pick. I would much rather go the route of a Tajay Spears, from Tulane, a Zach Charbonnet from UCLA, in
Right.
the Israel. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but you won me a lot of money on Pittsburgh this year.
Right.
Probably a 4th round pick. Zach Evans from Ole Miss, another one. So I would rather them go that route, which is probably what I see them doing. I've been saying this every single episode. They are going to draft a running back, and they're going to give him first team reps in camp. It's what they did when Mixon was drafted, and we saw Jeremy Hill, that era kind of ending. Mixon was brought in as a 2nd-round pick, instantly pretty much won the job, but by the midway part of his rookie year, it's evolution. That's how
Yeah.
it
Oh,
works, and
absolutely.
that's what they'll do.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't have any problem with the kid from UCLA in the second, or if we could get
Yep.
him in the third. There's going to be a quality back there. I agree with you on the first rounder. If we cannot get now, what do you think about the tight end in the first round? If one of the two, the Utah kid or the
I
same
love
kid
it.
falls to us,
If yeah, you're
am I okay?
okay. Sorry, my Wi-Fi is going shit right
Oh,
now.
okay. I
But
was
yeah, tight
okay.
end. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes. I can hear you.
Okay, cool. I don't know what's going on with this Wi-Fi right now. Tight end, absolutely. Michael Mayer, I would kill for. I don't like Darnell Washington as much as a lot of other people. That might be a reach in the first round. Kincaid, I think I'm going to stay away from Kincaid. He's really old. He's 24. He'll be 24 by week 1. It's not a first round pick for me. He's going to be 29 by the time he's going to need his 5th-year option. It's really old for a tight end.
Right,
Michael Mayer's he's not even 22 yet. So I am very pro tight end. I think that's a position in this offense that is is going to be useful. Irv Smith, I don't really think he's ever really played a full season. So they definitely need to go that route. But if Mayer's either not there or they fall in love with somebody else, Zach Kuntz tested off the charts. Sam Laporta tested off the charts. Tucker Kraft, another guy, probably 3rd-rounder. He tested off the charts. Luke Musgrave, Oregon
right. The
State.
Oregon State kid. Yeah,
Um, all those guys, great. I would stay away from Kincaid. He had some injury problems at Utah. Already old. Probably a reach in the first round. Won't be there by the end of the second. So hopefully they don't get him. That would just be either a reach or something weird happened.
right,
But I am very, very pro tight end. I think that needs to be addressed in the first 2 rounds if they have a guy they like, which I think they do, because the top 5 on the board, they all interviewed at the combine.
right.
So
Well,
they're looking at tight end.
yeah, and this is this is a rich draft for tight end. When you think about it,
Yes, you have to get one. You have to get one.
having 5 or 6 quality guys that'll be drafted day 1 or day 2, we don't say that all the time about tight end. So, and I don't necessarily. I personally would rather see, unless somebody special falls to us at 1, and we don't have an opportunity to trade back because our person, isn't there. I really would like to see us go corner. I just think
Yeah,
that's a we've listened. You go through our corner picks and throughout the years, and we've really hit on most of them. So I don't I like going corner in the first round, and like I said, we spent our time doing our due diligence. So I think we do. I think we go corner and then tight end, running back, or running back, tight end. That's how I see the draft kind of going, unless there's an offensive lineman we want to grab, day 2 or 3, 2nd or 3rd round.
so the modern day way of thinking when you're picking at the back end of the first round is to pick a position with very high positional value: wide receiver, offensive tackle, corner, edge rusher, quarterback. Not really quarterback, but yeah, because it's basically a 2nd-round pick, but if it's that first round tag, you get him
The
for a
extra
5th
year.
year cheap.
Yeah.
So that's the one problem with taking a running back or a tight end, is those are not premium positions. So you're really, like, the 5th-year option is kind of an overpay unless they're really, really good. I don't know if that's going to sway them away from going running back or tight end, but it does increase the sexiness of an Emmanuel Forbes or a Cam Smith or a Keeley Ringo. All 3 that they have interviewed. Emmanuel Forbes was one of their top 30 visits, their only top 30 visit for a corner. I think he fits like a glove. The one problem, he's a little light. but he's got some time to put on some weight. Cam Taylor-Britt's also pretty light, but I think he's going to come into camp about 5-10 pounds heavier. So that's not a huge issue. He is 170 at the combine. It's pretty light, pretty dense, but Emmanuel Forbes is the guy that I think they really, really like. So if
Okay.
that's the pick at 28 or trade back if he's still there, that's probably what I would do, honestly. That's probably my number one is Emmanuel Forbes.
Okay. What do you think about like day two getting a guy like Turner from Michigan?
I haven't seen much of DJ Turner. He's again a smaller guy, 5'11", 178. His measurables, 4 of the 5 height, weight, arms, wingspan all came in undersized. I just don't know if he's a Bengals guy. He's already, again 22 will be 23 by week 1. Not really a guy that history says the Bengals like. Did test pretty well, but all these corners tested well. I mean, top of the board, it's all 95 plus
Right.
RAS. He's just a little bit small, gonna come.
What a ball hawker, though. He seems to have ball
Yeah,
hawking, contests balls a lot. I mean, he's athletic, tips them to himself. I mean, like I said, but he's one of those, and I know he's not a first rounder or second rounder, but he's one of those. If we don't get the corner we want in the first or second, and we wind up going other positions, you've got Turner sitting there, third round. Maybe they pull the trigger on somebody like that. Like I said,
yeah.
it's a ball hawk kind of. When you watch his film, that's what I see is somebody who just has a nose for the football, which is something you can't coach. That's something you either have or you don't have.
I think if they were to go corner second round, it would be probably Clark Phillips. That's probably where I would lean. That's kind of where I would go. Clark Phillips. I think he's a much better fit.
Right. Well, we'll see. Like I said, the thing about the draft is it's so fluid. You have a team reaching up. We could get the call from somebody who wants to jump to 28 because they're going to go grab that quarterback in the first round to get that 5th-year option. And we fall back to the
Right.
next day. I
Exactly.
wouldn't be, if the person that they want isn't there, I have no problem with them doing that. So you got teams like
If
Miami with no first round pick. So, although they don't have a whole lot of draft capital, but there is going to be a team that look when they're looking at quarterback that are going to come back in and do that. So it'll be like I said, it's a fluid situation. This is why I hate mocks because you just got to kind of sit back and let the draft kind of flow over you and see how it goes. And like I said,
right.
there's going to be surprise. This staff has been a better staff at holding their cards a little closer to the vest. I mean, we've talked about how we were jump for Ragnow, how we were jump for Cedric Ellis because we kind of Marvin would just lay it out there. Everybody knew what we were doing. We weren't going to trade because that we never traded and we were going to sit there and wait, and so they knew who they had to get in front of. This coaching staff seems to be a lot better at not divulging anything. I wouldn't be surprised if we draft somebody that we never met with, that we didn't
Oh,
want.
I mean, look, you only get 30 visits. You only get
Right.
30 of them. Um, it's kind of out of left field to draft someone high up that you didn't even meet at the combine with. So that would surprise me a little bit. But they spent some 30s on a couple of tight ends, a couple of edge rushers, I think. Yes, 2 edge rushers, Miles Murphy, sleeper. That's a Bengals player.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if they're really gonna go high up for edge defenders because they've really retooled that position. They hit on Cam Sample, I think they hit on Zach Carter, and then they have the 2 big guys,
Yeah. Well, they got
Hendrickson and
Hubbard.
Hubbard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so like the edge rushing position as of now for the Bengals is stronger than it's ever been in the Zach Taylor era, which is really good because they have not had a very good pass rush in the Burrow era, but I think they will. They did last year, and they will this upcoming year. But again, second round, Miles Murphy. We know Zach Taylor and Duke Tobin love to draft big time, big game players, and Miles Murphy has played in big games. We know that from Clemson, and it just seems like a Bengals player. Miles Murphy or Brian Breesy.
right. Okay. So I do think because we haven't signed a backup quarterback yet, I do think there's a chance we take a late Ryan Flyer on a project. What do you think?
For what position? Sorry.
A quarterback. I think our backup. One that's a project.
Um,
I'm not talking about
I would
using
not. I
any of the
mean,
first five picks. I'm talking about, sleeper, kind of the way we grabbed AJ McCarron late in the draft when Aaron Murray went and, was kind of,
yeah, no, you're right.
I
They
think
did.
sixth round. I think we draft a project, somebody
I
who's
mean, look,
developmental.
they spent 230 visits on Dorian Thompson Robinson and Aiden O'Connell. I think those two guys are way different quarterbacks. I'd be shocked if they took DTR. I don't think he's accurate enough, but Aiden O'Connell is. That would be a perfect backup quarterback, a guy that they can mold into a suitable backup for years to come. And they not wasted, but they used a top 30 visit on a quarterback that's going to go on day 3. Two of them actually, DTR and O'Connell.
Right.
So that was surprising to see. But no, you're right. It's a position that they definitely need, and you cannot overlook backup quarterback. I look, if Burrow goes down, you're not going to win the Super Bowl. But if he misses three games and you're in a playoff push, you gotta have a guy that can throw the ball.
The whole reason why Miami made the postseason was Teddy Bridgewater. He was able to come in and win games. And it was the same thing with the Saints. He was able to come in and win games, and Breeze went down. Having a quarterback that actually is a backup that can actually make you believe he can win a game. Didn't they meet with Cooper Rush on from Dallas? I thought they had a visit with him.
I don't know, but this has given me a lot of anxiety talking about Burrow missing games in April.
Yeah, well, no, you have to have somebody, like I said, who can come in and win a game or two. So you're not rushing your guy back and you make the playoff push. And maybe, God forbid, maybe you wild card instead of division champ, you get into the dance and you make hay. So it's about you cannot have your quarterback go down and you go 0-4 in that stretch. You just can't. And then expect to make the postseason. It doesn't work that way. And I never felt like we had somebody who could win games with Brandon Allen. I never felt that way. So
I think offensive tackle is another interesting one. Everybody is screaming about Darnell Wright. Probably not going to happen. A lot of people are screaming about, well, a lot of the Ohio State homers are talking about DeJuan Jones, who actually might be there in the second round. We don't really know. Right. But a guy that I don't think anyone has been talking about.
At 31, so he's right on the cusp of late 1, early 2.
Right? A later guy who is really young or youngish, tested pretty decently, is Jalen Duncan out of Maryland, an offensive tackle. I don't know if he played left or right tackle, but measurables are really, really good. His athletic score combine numbers were off the charts. And they took a top 30 visit with him. So in terms of the offensive linemen, mostly the consensus around the league is that this is the worst offensive lineman class since 2017, where there was only one Pro Bowler. That was Ryan Remchek. That was the only Pro Bowler in 2017. Out of all the offensive linemen that were taken. Not a great draft class. We've had a lot of good ones since. This year's not great. So good thing the Bengals drafted Orlando Brown, because if they desperately needed a plug and play tackle, this would be a horrible year. They would have had to reach. It would have been bad. One guy gets injured. Offensive line's fucked. So great job for them getting a guy that they have their both bookend tackles figured out with a good backup still on the roster in Landon Collins. So that's good.
La'el Collins,
right.
There you go.
But yeah, I'd be surprised if they took an offensive lineman in the first 2 rounds.
I don't think they take him in the first. I was looking kind of at
first 2 days.
Bergeron from Syracuse. I think he's versatile, and I think he's one of those day 2, second or I want to say day 2.
Yeah, he's a day 2 guy.
Second or third rounder. He could be there. That's kind of the viable offensive lineman I see us getting if we're going to do that.
I saw someone mock Warren McClendon to us early, really, really young captain from Georgia. I think he played right tackle for them. Big dude, 6'4", 306. That plays.
Okay.
He's a later guy. His consensus board 178, so that's day 3. But that's probably where I see them going, is a guy who can come in and compete at camp. Kind of like what they did with Adeniji, who I don't want to say didn't work out. He was a 6th round pick and started in a Super Bowl for us.
You know what? And he showed signs last year. He played well down the stretch when we needed him to. So I consider him a success when you look at where we got him. I
Yep.
don't see that as we'll take that kind of stuff all day long. So, all right, well, let's like I said, this is the season of misinformation. We may not have met with the guy that's the highest guy on our board because we don't want to tip our hand. I mean, this is where we're at. We'll talk up people we're not interested in, hoping that somebody else thinks we're going to get them. Everything you're reading, it's all very deliberate. Okay. That's the season of information win. At 28, we're going to see how everything plays out. Jake will be available. We'll do, there's a possibility we'll do a show next week. If there's day one, day two, we could just, send out a quick text with one another and throw a show together. That's why you got to subscribe. You got to hit the bell. We were one of the first shows out when we signed Orlando Brown. I mean, that's how we had, over 2,000 views because we had 1,000 in the first day. ESPN hadn't even reported it, and we already had a show up. So we will jump out and we will throw something in draft day. Could be day one, could be day two. We'll definitely be doing a recap following the draft. So please, like I said, subscribe, hit the bell. It's going to be fluid. I said this before. I'm going to say it again. We already won the offseason. We got Orlando Brown. We didn't lose any of our coaches. And the signings that we've had have been very strategic, very smart money. So I feel like we've already won the offseason. Let's finish by winning the draft. Jake, remind them where they can find all your stuff.
Yeah, hit me up on Twitter at Jake Circus, Sirkus. Also, the Jake Circus podcast on Spotify. And yeah, let's. I agree. If they go BPA, I have all the faith that they'll make the right moves because they've been doing it for 2 years now, and there aren't a ton of really spots on the roster that they really have to worry about. But I'm very interested to see who they take at 28 because we don't really know who's going to be there. And look, there's only so much smoke that you can throw out when you're picking at the back of each round.
Right.
But they're going to try.
And don't rule out the trade back because we're in
that
position the last four where somebody's going to say, hey, before someone calls this team, let's call the Bengals and get in there and get this guy. So it's a possibility. So, all right, with that, I'm going to say, hoo day, everybody. Take care. We'll catch you next week. Enjoy the draft.